Hello everyone, welcome to this week's session of Developer Q&A. Today we're going to be covering community-inspired app ideas. So this would mean anything that we've received feedback from the community or submissions saying, hey, this would be a really cool idea for an app and I don't see it yet. Things that people would be interested in building or seeing built. And if you're wondering how we might understand what people are interested in seeing, we can actually tell because we have a section in our marketplace where people can submit ideas. So if we go over here at miro.com/marketplace, if you go to the bottom of this page, you'll actually see this looking for anything else option with a submit a request button. So here you can actually submit a request and let us know if you have an app idea. So generally speaking, these would all be ideas that don't yet exist on our marketplace. We've created a board here to share some of these ideas that we've received so far, and there's a lot of really cool inspiration out there. So I'm going to spend some time today going through each of these ideas and hopefully inspire some of you out there to build something really cool. And as a bit of a teaser, this will be really helpful because we're about to launch an initiative or a contest to inspire developers to build some of these ideas. I'll get into that in a little bit, but for now I'll kind of jump into some of these really cool ideas that members of our community have suggested. So the first one is a find and replace text option. So this would be, using either our REST API or our Web SDK to read all of the text on a Miro board and replace it based on an input. So it would actually be, a fairly simple app to build, in my opinion. But you do have to leverage one of our developer capabilities, whether that's the API or the SDK. You'd have to use a get method to read the text on a Miro board. So whether that's reading the text on a sticky note or reading all the text items on a board, and then replacing it based on a user input. So maybe you're using the Web SDK and you have a form where someone can very similar to if you're researching in Google Doc or something like that. So that's one really cool idea that we've seen a number of people saying, hey, that'd be a really cool app. Another one we have is, a Discord integration. So it comes as no surprise that we're using Discord right now, but it'd be a really cool idea to, have some kind of sync between a Miro board and a Discord server, for instance. Maybe this is, posting messages in a Discord server as sticky notes on a Miro board or something like that. Nothing too fancy, but you could get as creative as you'd like. Another idea would be like a two-way sync for Notion. So this would probably be an integration, but it could also leverage our Web SDK or our Live Embed perhaps. So we do have an existing Notion integration, I believe, but it's one way. So the idea here would be if you make updates in Miro, they're reflected in Notion, and if you make updates in Notion, they'd be reflected in Miro. So that's another option out there. Some of these apps, are more design oriented, like the color palette idea or the design platform integration. So the color palette idea, I think, is pretty simple. Something like maybe like a color picker or some kind of app like that, probably leveraging our Web SDK. Whereas a design platform integration would probably be a sync between some other platforms like Figma or Canva, maybe Zeppelin. These are some of the more popular ones. So, creating some kind of sync between Miro and one of those platforms. And then another really cool idea that I thought would be, pretty valuable is the recycle bin functionality. So this would be, creating some kind of app or integration that serves the same purpose as, what you'd see on a Mac or Windows desktop to take some kind of asset. Maybe, you don't want to use it right now, so you put it in the recycling bin. But then you're able to recover it if you decide that, okay, actually I will use this. Some more ideas here. There's this remove background inspiration or idea, the ability to alter the background colors of items on a board or create some kind of overarching background for the board, maybe done with a shape or something like that. You could definitely get creative with some of these ideas. A translator app or a spell check app, these are very similar kinds of apps where you would probably take a similar approach to the find and replace text app. And you'd probably read all of the text on board items possibly store it somewhere or possibly, do this all on the front end. Lots of options out there, but what you would do that with text would depend on the use case. If it's a translator, you might use some kind of third-party API, like, there's a lot of different ones out there. I know there's a Google one, I think there's a DeepL one, to like return translated text. Or if you're doing spell check, you could create some kind of functionality similar to like Grammarly or other platforms that check for typos or offer enhanced suggestions for grammatical implementation. So there's just some options out there as well. But yeah, a lot of really cool ideas that we've received so far. One of my personal favorites is the travel planner. I personally use Miro a lot for planning trips, and it would be really cool to have, either like a web SDK panel where you could, search hotels and flights and then automatically add them to the board, or maybe some kind of integration with, the Google APIs or Kayak APIs, things like this, where you're always updating flight prices or flight times, based on these third-party sources. So it'd be a really cool idea. Might be something I build myself actually. So, we'll see. What other ideas did we have here? So there's a map maker. Maybe some kind of app that uses, I would guess probably our Web SDK or maybe both our Web SDK and our REST API to generate a map based on certain criteria. I could envision something like people who use Google Maps to pin like their favorite restaurants or their favorite parks, things like that. Maybe you could create something kind of similar where you have a selection of places and then you could add it to a Miro board on a map or something like that. Of course, this is all just inspiration, but lots of cool ideas out there. What else do we have? Another common thing that we hear from these submissions is that Markdown would be really cool. So being able to ingest Markdown and construct board items based on it. It's kind of similar to perhaps one of our inspiration apps that we built here at Miro, which is the Miro by PlanningML app, which ingests like UML and creates a diagram. So perhaps a similar kind of approach of ingesting Markdown and constructing something based off of that. There's also a few other ones here, like the flip sticky. It'd be cool to select a sticky and reverse the orientation or the content. So these inspiration ideas range from very simple to maybe more complex if you're using third-party APIs or building a more kind of complex app with our Web SDK. So this is just kind of an overview of some of the more highly requested inspiration or ideas we've seen. It's cool to think that if any of you members of our community were to build one of these apps, you would know that there's already demand for it, and you could publish it on our marketplace. It'd be really cool to see, ideas like this come to life with your name on it or your company's name on it, and really see your ideas come to fruition. We do have a more detailed kind of list of some of these items, which I'll share out afterwards. And so this is just kind of a more comprehensive list of the inspiration ideas that we've received so far. You may be wondering why, we're taking the time to go over these inspiration or app ideas, that were submitted by the marketplace forum here by you all or members of our Miro community. And as a teaser, this is actually something that will be a lot more relevant very soon because we're actually about to launch a community-inspired app contest, likely later this week. And essentially, there will be the opportunity to build one of these apps or these app ideas listed here as a community developer. And we will choose an app in the coming months based on the submissions. And you'll have the opportunity to have a blog post written about your app. We'll offer to invite people to come share their app on developer Q&A and make that recording more widely available on YouTube as part of our Miro for Developers channel. And also we'll be providing a very exclusive Miro for Developers swag box that would be really cool to have. So stay tuned. This is coming soon, and it's going to be really fun to see what everyone builds and see some of these submissions.